All right. Who is Billy Sapp? I don't know who that is. Um, Let me get the coin. Who wants to call it? Heads or tails?
Heads.
Heads it is.
I will go first.
1 second. Whenever you start, Tbone, I'll start the timer.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Red Room, Blue Room, your Honor Bell, and everybody who came to watch, thank you so much. The topic of discussion today is whether insurance is a scam. Very simply put, when we take a look at the historical references of these policies and the way that they've been written with these provisions are purposely put in place to be able to get over on the individuals, knowing that they're not able to typically read the entirety of the policy or understand the policy, or just writing these policies up on individuals without their consent or without them knowing. The other portion that we have to look at is why insurance is brought into play and what the ultimate goal is for the corporation. The ultimate goal for the corporation is to maximize on their profit as much as they can. This means if you have to go as far as denying claims, or if you have to raise insurance premiums, which is absolutely unethical, predicated on what's going on in society with the economy, and then pushing that premium so that your margin can be maximized, is absolutely antithetical and is absolutely disgusting. I will be able to show through the amount of insurance that is written up compared to the amount of insurance that is actually paid out through the claims, and through the cited sources from the government that regulates those insurance corporations on how insurance is a scam. Thank you.
Thank you, Tbone. Moonbootz, whenever you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, Red Room, Blue Room, thank you so much for attending this this debate today. And I'd like to thank my esteemed opponent here, Tbone, for taking the debate with me. We will be discussing the predatory natures of the insurance industry. And although I personally believe that there are aspects of the insurance industry that are considered predatory, I would not consider it a full-on scam, due to the mere fact that insurance is one of the foundations for building yourself up financially, building up a household. If you're an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that you are guaranteeing as much as you possibly can to be able to guarantee certain safety nets for yourself. There are studies through PubMed that have been published. There are studies through the done through Fidelity on such matters. I also have sources pulled up through I lost that one. The Center of Budget and Policy Priorities that will illustrate how the overall impact of certain safety nets within a household and within a business have guaranteed success, or at least better your odds against tragedy that would shut down the operation altogether. We see that a mere earthquake can bankrupt an entire family for generations. We see that a car accident can impact an entire family, creating generational poverty. We see that fires can devastate an entire family. We see that health concerns can devastate an entire family for generations. Insurance policies, although primarily we don't see a max benefit being paid out, these are securities against such atrocities. And these safety nets are essential in order to guarantee your success in life.
Is that? Okay. And gonna go bring it to 20 minutes. And whenever you're ready, whoever wants to start, I'll start the timer.
Okay, so one of the things that I look at as far as why this would be looked at as a scam is because of the nature and the way insurance is run. So, for example, in most states, I believe New Hampshire is the only state that it is not required. Car insurance is by law, right? So you have to have car insurance, meaning that if these companies want to raise up these premiums, well, you don't have a choice in really paying it, right? Because most of society is going to be driving. And if you want to drive, you have to have this insurance. And I think that that kind of caps things off as far as options for a lot of people and kind of forces them into that paying option. Would you agree with that statement that there should be more leeway in that?
I don't agree with that off the simple premise that if we're talking about auto insurance, it is not just to protect the driver, it is to protect other people on the road and other things that that driver may affect. That insurance covers the things that they possibly could hit with their vehicle and other people that could be hurt or other property that could be damaged. That insurance is not for the operator of the vehicle, it is for the people around it. So the provisions there are actually to protect everybody else significantly more than the driver itself. So you have to be able to quantify that. You have to be able to quantify what impact could you as an individual be able to have on the people around you, and that is ultimately what the policy is trying to protect.
So I wouldn't disagree with that. The only problem is for those people who are paying $200 for liability insurance, which is supposed to protect other individuals, are paying $1,200. I'm sorry, that would be $1,400 every single year for insurance. They're getting nothing back from that. So I got a $2,000 car and I'm spending $1,400 for insurance. Right? What does that do for me?
Well,
if I don't get in an accident, that is.
I totally understand, but you can't forget that it's also to protect the individual that's walking down the road. Do you need insurance to be able to walk on a sidewalk? Do you need insurance for let's say you want to set up a lemonade stand and somebody hits into your lemonade stand and children are injured? The insurance policy of that driver covers those children. It covers the people walking on the sidewalk. That's what it's there to protect. It's not just for the individual that is driving their vehicle, protecting their property. It's to cover and make whole what possible damage they could do with that vehicle and that liability.
I definitely understand where you're coming from with this. The argument that I'm going to give in response to that is that it seems that these corporations weaponize that to be able to write up these insurance policies. And we see a collective side of things, even like, for example, term life insurance, which I'm sure you're well aware of. Only 1 to 2% of all term life insurance policies result in an actual payout. Right. So if this is just a gambling game and putting insurance in for the protection, that would be one thing. But when we're saying that only 1% of policies are being paid out in a certain sense, that to me is a problem.
But what is the primary reason why those policies are not being paid out? It's because they end their coverage. That is the majority of the reason why the policies don't see fruition. On top of that, that takes into consideration when the individual policy reaches its term and you have to renew the contract. So many of these contracts need to go into renewal. Many people, as they reach an advanced age, they are not going to renew their policy. And that is why in term life insurance, we don't see that it's being paid out. However, if people hold their term life insurance to the point that the benefit needs to be paid out, you're going to wind up seeing a 95% return on your total investment on average. So for me, myself, I contribute $10 a month into my life insurance policy that would pay out $116,000. So that is through work. I don't assume that I'm going to be carrying that policy till the end of my life. I hope to actually be able to retire, but I will be getting a separate term life policy to carry on the side as well to make sure that I'm able to cover all household expenses if there were to be an untimely demise, because I wish to set up my fiance for life and make sure that she is protected and financially secure when I am not physically here to be able to do that for her. And these are policies that are these personal policies, these personal practices are well established by any financial institution, whether you're going through Primerica, Fidelity, Vanguard, anyone that is giving you financial advice is going to say the same thing, that your foundation needs to start with being able to protect your assets and yourself. And that starts with insurance.
So the other reason that term life insurance is written up is because for the whole life policies, people aren't able to afford them. And the reason that they're not able to afford them is because the insurance industry is run based off of them being able to run a profit. right? So underwriting is going to assess how old you are, the area that you're in. And this is the other reason that people are purchasing term life insurance, not to mention the fact that there's a whole bunch of provisions within those term life insurance policies. So the problem that comes into play is if you're not abiding by these in particular, for example, if you switch your profession and you just forget to put this into whatever document with your life insurance policy, or forget to report this, or you don't report this within a certain time frame, because if you report it after 14 days, for example, is the grace period, and you submit that information on the 15th, well, you could be paying for this insurance policy for the longest of time and they just won't pay out a claim. And so they'll just chalk it up as a claim not being paid out for this by the time of your death. We see this all the time with health insurance as well, where you have a certain amount of time that you have to report whatever type of accident that you get into or whatever the case may be. And then all of that liability falls back to the consumer, who is paying for something that they are of the belief that is going to be paid out and protecting them. And this is what is resulting in the maximum increase in the profits of these insurance corporations, which I can date back to 2023, 2024 as well.
But at which point would that actually be the case? Like, how often does it go back to the discovery from the initial intake report from the underwriter that is doing the life insurance policy that there's a fault in paperwork for term life insurance? Because I'm seeing here that 80% of the time that the benefit is not paid out, it is due to just the contract reaching its expiration before a payout is possible.
Yeah, yes, I'm not denying that. And most of those term life insurance policies that I know of are set within a very short time frame. You're looking at 5 to 10 years, right? So most people are going to be able to outlive that. But if something happens to you at that point in time, that other 80% or that other 20% that you're talking about, these are the ones where we're talking about those claims not being paid out. Now we have 19 to 18% that we're having to assess why these claims were not paid out. And the only conclusion we can come to is that 18% of the people who are signing up for term life insurance are attempting to scam the system and are unsuccessfully doing so. And that just doesn't compute.
Yeah, I would also like you to be able to substantiate that it actually is 1 to 2%. Do you have a source for that? Because that's different from numbers that I'm seeing.
Yes. Give me 1 second here so I can pull this up. We have Wi-Fi Talents, I'll just call it Wi-Fi Talents, is where I'm getting this from, where they did a payout statistic for term life insurance. I could send you this source as well, but it shows here that that number is sitting somewhere around the 1 to 2 percentile when we're talking about the term life insurance policies that are actually being paid out.
Okay, because I'm seeing 5%.
I mean, even if it was 5%, I would grant that there. I still think that that's very low, because we still have 15% that we have to account for now. And why? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing. Sorry.
But so I guess my question becomes, if I'm seeing that 15% of people that are paying for these life insurance policies are just not able to they're not able to cash out on these policies or get the payouts from these policies. And then I see in the entirety of insurance corporations dating back to 2023, the net income was $88 on of the dollar amount, right? Increasing almost double to 126%. So we had 88 going up to 126% of that being increased. I'm sorry. 2022 was $39, and then 2023 is $88. So that was the reference point that they were talking about of it nearly doubling. These profit margins are getting completely out of hand, right? So when you combine the fact that these policies are not being paid out, that the corporations are damn near doubling at times their profit margins, how do we not come to the conclusion that it's a scam? Because if it's predicated on the liability aspect, I would agree with you. But it seems as though there's certain things put into the provisions in a very slippery way for them to be able to deny claims and maximize those profits.
Well, one of the major things that you need to also take into consideration with where the majority of the profit comes from for insurance companies is not so much the initial, it's what they do with their payments that they receive. They are reinvesting that into a fund. One of the major things that we've seen over time is the drastic overinflation of the market that has resulted in significant gains in terms of all of these mutual funds that all of our premiums have been deposited into. When we pay into insurance, it goes into a mutual fund, and when the benefit is paid out, it's paid out of the mutual fund, or in many cases borrowed against the mutual fund, and not actually a direct deposit from that. So these insurance companies act much more like mutual funds or hedge funds than insurance companies in their nature, and that's the way that most major corporations actually operate, and that's where a majority of their profits actually are drawn from. So it's not just from doubling their premiums and having less payouts. That's not necessarily necessary for them to be able to draw a profit margin, because that's not actually in the way that they operate as an institution.
Can you just give me, like, what is the reason with everything that was coming into play with the economy back in 2022? I would have an understanding there, right? Going to 2023 and 2024, can you give me any type of reasonable explanations for why those premiums increased so much and why the profit margins increased even more? Because it just sitting in a fund doesn't make sense to me. That number goes into what they call their expenses. So that's going to be for the actual premiums themselves, any type of overhead, underwriting, the agents, which are absolutely out of control as well. But that's factored into all of the things that they have to pay for outside of the amount that they're gaining in profit.
Yeah. Overall, one of the major things that we're seeing, insurance also covers the liabilities, the property that they are protecting against. And one of the major things that we've seen in that time span is nationally, most property value has nearly doubled in many cases. So the actual collateral or the property that it's protecting or the other liabilities have actually increased in value. And on top of that, we're seeing many things that have become significantly more expensive. It is, in some cases, it is tripled for basic maintenance on a vehicle due to supply chain issues that we still haven't seen fully stabilized. We are seeing that it is costing more to be able to ship things. We're seeing a lot of impacts from inflation that ultimately would also impact the premiums themselves. Can you deny that?
I will deny for the simple fact that 100% of the value of the home is not necessarily paid off, right? Or the contents within your home. They are only going to pay out what it costs to actually replace whatever was lost within that situation. And so if I value my home, or even in some cases stated value or the agreed upon value. So if my contract starting out, which this is why it's important to understand those contracts. If I start out my policy at a stated value, and then my home increases $120,000 on the market, tough luck, right? If something happens to my home, I'm just getting whatever the stated value was in the beginning of the policy. I don't think that that's fair. And a lot of people aren't understanding of this whenever they're going into these contracts. The only thing they care about is, I just need to protect my family. I have to go back to my 9 to 5 and work my 40 hours per week. I don't have the all day to be able to read through these provisions. So they're trusting these agents to tell them this. And unfortunately, that's not the case. But even with a standard homeowner's policy, they're not going to pay 100% of that. It's just going to be paid to rebuild whatever that home is.
Sure. Now, one of the major things that you spoke on was the provisions that are in place that are failing us. Correct?
Yes.
All right. One of those provisions is that a estimated profit margin on an individual policy is 20%. Can you agree to that?
I do not know that to be factual.
Okay. Well, that is one of the provisions for insurances, not just health insurance, but also life insurance, also with car insurance industry as a whole. They have a capped provision at 20% profit margin per on their projected policies as a whole. What they're actually seeing on the profit margins is between 3 to 6%. So they're coming nowhere near what that initial provision is. That's called the 80/20 rule in the Affordable Care Act.
I don't know that I've ever seen that. And the Affordable Care Act, to my knowledge, is specifically supposed to be for health insurance. So I can understand that regulation within health insurance. Can you show me where that is in the other policies, or like where it is in law at least?
I'd have to trench it up where it matriculates into other policies as well. Let's see.
I mean, that's if you can't find it now, that's fine. I guess we can, because I still have to find the other one that I was looking for you too.
Yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that one. I don't have an exact source. It does seem like this is primarily meant, and the source that I have now, it is mentioning primarily either insurance brokers or health insurance institutions, and it's also mentioned in the Affordable Care Act. I'd have to dig deeper where it matriculates over. That's old knowledge from when I initially got my life license.
Gotcha. Okay. So I do want to move into the health insurance side of things and kind of pick your brain on this because from what we're about to see coming in the next couple of months, insurance is raising up to about 133%. And I went back and did a little bit of math on this. I'm not going to be able to tell you like what the specifics is, right? But per them just being able to remove the subsidies that were dished out by the government, they are able to increase their premiums 133%. This is on average, right? And the hope is, well, these corporations are going to be able to compete with each other. But what we've seen per the market is that all insurance is increasing at about the same rate. And it seems as though there's a consensus within these corporations. You could say it's spoken or unspoken, that we are going to increase these premiums to the maximum coming this year in 2026. For the people who are paying, let's just say, $100 for insurance, right? Who then have to turn around and pay $250 for that insurance. Do you not believe that that type of concept becomes predatory to the people that are trying to protect their family?
The predatory aspect that I see within our current healthcare system is something that we often do not speak about nearly enough, and it is one of the looming issues that also exists within a universal healthcare conversation, and that is where the actual profit is being drawn in from. It is not from the pharmaceutical companies. It is not from the insurance companies. It is not at the hospitals, but the individual pharmacies, the for-profit pharmacies that we have in America is actually where we see the drastic increase in all of these margins and where we're paying for it. If you were able to look at the dramatic difference of a European model in their healthcare system, they are able to buy directly. They have hubs that they don't have pharmacies. They have government run hubs that there's a better word than hub, and I apologize for that they're purchasing their pharmaceuticals from. That's cutting out that profit, that aspect of the markup, where, even though that the pharmacies themselves are buying the pharmaceuticals at maybe about 1.5 to 2 times higher than the pharmacies are buying them in Europe, they're passing on those significant increases to the consumer. And that's one of the things that has not been addressed by any of the healthcare bills and hasn't been addressed in any of the proposed plans for universal healthcare in America. And our insurance companies still have to front the bill. And that's one of the major reasons that we're also seeing increase in insurance costs, is that they're responsible for fronting that bill.
Quick question for you before we end this. Would you say that universal healthcare would be a type of insurance?
I would consider that. I would consider it a form of, obviously a form of insurance. However, I do feel that there needs to be deeper conversations, and there is not a one-to-one system in the world or a proof of concept for how it would operate in the American system.
Okay. Since Tbone, you started the 2 minutes. Little Moonbootz, you can go whenever you're ready for the 2-minute closing.
Ladies and gentlemen of Red Room, Blue Room, I thank you so much for staying tuned for this, what I think was a wonderful debate. I think that Tbone was a lovely opponent. I do believe that in this time, you have seen me be able to meet each and every one of Tbone's talking points. I think that I was able to counter each one. I think that during this time, I have been able to illustrate certain necessities for insurance and maybe some topics that have not quite been explored in the nature of the insurance industry, and many of the realities of the insurance industry that's necessary for a much more productive conversation. I appreciate so much the conversation today, and I feel like it was a close one. If I did not win, ultimately, I think I properly did illustrate how, although there are predatory aspects of the insurance industry, that it is not a scam or predatory by nature, that it can be used as a very essential financial tool for individuals to take advantage of. And I believe that's my time.
Thank you, Moon. Tbone, whenever you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Red Room, Blue Room, your Honor Bell, and my opponent, Lil Moonbootz, and everybody who came to watch, thank you guys so much. Today we talked about whether insurance was a scam, and I do believe that this was a great conversation and a great debate to have. I will say that I don't think that my position has moved an inch after having the conversation, even though my opponent gave great arguments. I think that one of the things that I look at here is the profit margins for these executives, for these CEOs, CFOs. I look at the payouts and the amount of term life insurance that is not being paid out based off of the contracts that are being brought up. Also, with being an agent at one point in time, seeing what the culture is, which I wasn't able to dive into, but I'll leave you guys with this. The mindset and the culture of an agent is to write up as many policies as they possibly can, and while trying to be as quote unquote ethical as they possibly can, not taking no as an answer, which gets a whole bunch of people to get into insurance policies that they should not be in or are not educated on, and causes for these individuals to be hurt in the long run. I think that we've done a lot within this country to try to write up laws, policies, and procedures to stop these corporations from being able to do these things. However, we know that these corporations are in the back pockets of a lot of these politicians. And a lot of times that anything happens with these corporations, they get a slap on the wrist. That in combination with how these insurance policies provisions are written, with the fact that these claims are not being paid out to the same rate, or at least enough of a threshold for us to be able to say it is ethical and that it is actually working, and us identifying too many problems with the insurance industry leads me to believe that insurance is absolutely a scam. Thank you.
Thank you, Tbone. Everybody can come up and discuss for a few minutes, and then Tbone, I'm going to shut down and we can move everyone over to you, unless you want to move over now. Oh wait, you recorded it, right?
No, it didn't freaking record.
Yeah, I'd rather move over anyways, because I gotta start.
Okay, I'll start up now.
Yeah, everyone, let's move over to Tbone's and we can discuss the debate over there, please. You guys did great. All right. Baxter, moving over to Tbone's. Everybody move over to Tbone's. Ciao.